The difference between financial stress and freedom isn't your income. It's something far more insidious: self-sabotage. Many people unknowingly undermine their own success just as they stand at the cusp of financial abundance. You might be tempted to think it's about bad luck or poor market conditions, but the truth is most people sabotage their dreams right before they get rich simply because they fear what comes next. Think about it. How often have you heard that lottery winners often end up bankrupt? Studies show nearly 70% of them do. Why? Because sudden wealth can trigger self-destructive behavior. Picture Jane, a hardworking entrepreneur who finally hit her stride, only to blow her newfound wealth on luxury items and risky investments. She's not an anomaly, she's the rule. Most financial advice misses this crucial mark. You see, it's not just about budgeting or saving, though those are important. The deeper issue is psychological. If the mind isn't ready to handle wealth, the bank account won't matter. My name is Ben, and I spend way too much time thinking about why people crash just as they're about to take off. In this essay, we're diving deep into the hidden reasons that cause self-sabotage when wealth is within reach. Why do people dash their own dreams at the last moment? Simple. It's fear of success. Most advice tells you to save more or invest wisely, but rarely do we address the mental blocks holding you back. It's about understanding why you react the way you do when success is imminent. And here's the kicker. Self-sabotage isn't about money. It's about your subconscious deciding that staying in the comfort zone is safer than the unknown territory of wealth. Imagine you're climbing a mountain, and just before you reach the summit, you look down and freeze. That fear is what stops so many from achieving true financial freedom. It's not the mountain, it's the fear of heights, or in our case, the fear of success. So, what's next? Over the course of this essay, we'll explore why these psychological barriers exist, how they manifest in real-world decisions, and most importantly, how to overcome them. Here's the punchline. The financial game is not about making more money. It's about making sure you don't fumble the ball just as you're about to score. Stick around as we uncover the exact traps that lead to self-sabotage and how you can sidestep them to secure the wealth you've worked so hard to achieve. The psychology behind self-sabotage right before attaining wealth is a complex maze of fear, cognitive bias, and emotional turmoil. At its core, this behavior often stems from a deeply ingrained fear of success. It's not just a catchy phrase, it's a psychological reality. When individuals stand on the precipice of financial achievement, subconscious alarms can trigger, driven by a fear of the unknown and a perception that success might disrupt their identity or social relationships. Consider this. Our brains are wired for survival, not risk-taking. Historically, venturing too far from the tribe could mean danger. In today's world, this evolutionary trait manifests as a fear of stepping too far out of one's comfort zone, even if that zone is financial precariousness. This is why many people unconsciously pull back right before they leap into wealth. They're hardwired to avoid threats, even imagined ones. It's an emotional tug of war where the status quo feels safer than the promise of success. Research supports this counterproductive behavior. A report from Psychology Today indicates that about 80% of individuals harbor a subconscious fear of success. This fear can stem from a variety of sources, such as feeling unworthy of wealth, fearing increased expectations, or worrying about losing personal relationships. For example, Tom, a successful software engineer, began to feel unworthy of his rapidly increasing salary, leading him to make impulsive purchases that drained his savings. This isn't just irrational behavior. It's a blend of cognitive biases and emotional responses. One prevalent cognitive bias is the imposter syndrome, a phenomenon where high achievers struggle to internalize their accomplishments, attributing success to luck rather than skill. This mindset can be crippling, particularly when approaching financial milestones. Instead of embracing success, individuals might deliberately make poor financial choices to align reality with their self-perception of inadequacy. When you understand this bias, it's easier to see how it acts like a glass ceiling for your finances, self-imposed and limiting. The shift occurs when you recognize these patterns and actively work to rewire them. Understanding you're not alone in fearing success can be liberating. Realizing that these feelings are biological and psychological, not factual, allows you to reclaim control. It's like flipping a switch from being a passenger in your financial journey to being the driver. You start to see money as a tool rather than a test of character. Importantly, this isn't just theoretical. Studies show that when people become aware of their biases and fears, they can actively counteract them. Awareness is the first step to change. As you dismantle these psychological barriers, your decisions start to align more closely with your financial goals rather than your financial fears. The mental game changes, transforming a fear of heights into a view from the top. By understanding the psychological traps of self-sabotage, you unlock the potential to break free from them. It's not about denying the fear, it's about acknowledging it and moving forward anyway. The key insight here is that wealth doesn't just change your bank balance, it changes your mindset. When you master the psychological barriers, you give yourself permission to succeed. Once that shift happens, you stop fearing wealth and start embracing its possibilities. As we delve into the math behind financial self-sabotage, it's clear that numbers don't just reflect your financial status, they actively shape it. Consider this. A study by the National Endowment for Financial Education found that without a financial plan, individuals are 75% more likely to make poor financial decisions. This isn't just a statistic, it's a stark reality that reflects how lack of planning can derail even the most promising financial trajectories. When you're on the cusp of wealth, the stakes are higher and the math becomes unforgiving. Imagine you have $100,000 in investments. A 10% increase means you're up $10,000, a considerable gain. But without a strategy, a subsequent 15% market dip can wipe out that gain and more, leaving you with just $95,000. Emotionally driven decision-making rather than strategic planning is why so many find themselves back at square one. The numbers are relentless. They don't care about your intentions, only your actions. Take Mike, an investor we're all too familiar with. His portfolio skyrocketed by 300%, a windfall that tempted him to ride a wave of euphoria without reallocating his assets or diversifying risk. When the market corrected, he lost 60% of his gains. For Mike, the initial success became a trap. The numbers told a story of progress, but his lack of planning wrote the ending. It's a classic example of how success, when not managed with care, can be fleeting. Here's another critical number. According to research, sudden wealth recipients, such as lottery winners, are 70% more likely to declare bankruptcy within a few years. This dramatic statistic reveals how financial windfalls can lead to self-destructive behaviors, if not accompanied by a structured financial approach. The issue isn't the amount, it's the lack of a roadmap. A sudden influx of cash can feel like a golden ticket, but without a plan, it's more like a trapdoor. Now let's talk about comparison. Suppose two people each earn $80,000 annually. One invests $500 monthly with a modest 7% return, while the other spends indiscriminately, assuming future earnings will cover today's indulgences. After 30 years, the disciplined investor will have over $600,000. The spender? Still scrambling to keep up. This isn't hypothetical. It's the compounded impact of consistent decision-making. The numbers don't lie. Wealth isn't just about income, it's about choices. What about timelines? They matter too. Consider the critical period just as wealth begins to accumulate. It's here that self-sabotage often strikes hardest. The timeline from the first significant financial milestone to potential wealth can be perilously short if marred by poor decisions. Each financial misstep compounds like interest, but in the opposite direction, draining potential rather than building it. The insight here is simple but profound. Numbers are both a mirror and a map. They reflect the choices you've made and the path you're on. Understanding them isn't just beneficial, it's essential. When you're about to get rich, the math doesn't just show you where you are, it tells you where you're going. Without a plan, you're not just risking your wealth, you're gambling with your future. Imagine you're on the verge of a financial breakthrough. You've been diligent growing your savings and making strategic decisions. But suddenly, you find yourself splurging on a luxury car or an extravagant vacation. The impulse to enjoy the fruits of your labor is understandable, yet it often spirals into patterns that derail your progress. This is the insidious impact of self-sabotage. Just when you're about to get rich, you unconsciously pull the plug. Without understanding this phenomenon, life can feel like a series of missed opportunities. Consider Mark, who was on track to move up in his tech career. He had the skills and experience to accept a lucrative offer in a new city, but doubts crept in, fear of the unknown, fear of leaving his comfort zone. He turned down the job, convincing himself there would be another chance. There wasn't. Weeks turned into months, and the opportunity slipped away. This is self-sabotage, fear masquerading as caution, holding you back just as you're about to leap forward. Now, let's shift focus to what changes when you recognize this pattern. Awareness can transform hesitation into action. When you understand that the voice urging you to play it safe isn't protecting you, but limiting you, you start to make different choices. The person who acknowledges their fear can step back, assess the situation, and move forward strategically rather than impulsively. This is where the real power lies, knowing you can break the cycle. The ripple effects of overcoming self-sabotage touch every aspect of life. In careers, it means pursuing roles that elevate your skills and income rather than settling for the familiar. For relationships, it means investing in connections that nurture growth rather than clinging to those that feed insecurity. In daily decisions, it's choosing actions that align with long-term goals, not short-term comforts. The shift is profound and palpable. Picture Sarah, who once declined a promotion due to fear of increased responsibility. Acknowledging her self-sabotaging tendency, she reevaluated her capabilities. She took on that role, doubling her income and gaining confidence in her leadership skills. Her career trajectory changed entirely because she refused to let fear dictate her future. Concrete scenarios make this real. Imagine a business owner on the brink of expansion, paralyzed by the fear of success. Recognizing this self-sabotage, he opts for gradual growth, building a sustainable model that scales over time. Or consider a couple ready to invest in property, anxious about market volatility. By understanding self-sabotage, they take calculated risks, focusing on long-term appreciation rather than short-lived trends. In every scenario, the takeaway is clear. Recognizing self-sabotage isn't just about avoiding failure. It's about unlocking potential. It empowers you to seize opportunities that once seemed intimidating. You realize that the only thing standing between you and wealth isn't the market, your skills, or your network. It's often just your own mindset. Understanding self-sabotage shifts your narrative from reactive to proactive. You're no longer at the mercy of unconscious fears. You become the architect of your financial destiny. And that is a game changer. It's easy to assume that self-sabotage is just another form of procrastination or fear. We often think these actions spring from a lack of discipline or willpower. But here's the twist. Self-sabotage isn't just about avoiding discomfort. It's about protecting an identity. The key misconception is that people sabotage themselves because they don't want success. The reality? They're scared of what success will turn them into. When the stakes rise, so does the pressure to redefine who you are. Picture someone on the cusp of wealth. They've been labeled as scrappy or underdog their whole life. Suddenly, their success story is about to redefine them as privileged or elite. The psychological tension is immense. It's no longer just about what they achieve, but who they become. And that's terrifying. The real insight here is that people aren't sabotaging their financial goals. They're safeguarding a narrative that feels safe and familiar. Consider the contrast. On one side, the known struggle and consistent identity. On the other, the unknown territory of wealth and the fear of losing one's grounding. Yet the truth is, wealth doesn't change who you are. It amplifies your existing values. If generosity drove you during lean times, it will be magnified with resources. If you cherished integrity while struggling, success will reflect that even more. But if your identity is insecure, the fear of amplification paralyzes you. What you should focus on isn't the accumulation of wealth, but the alignment of your financial goals with your core values. This shift, Away from the fear of change towards the embrace of authentic growth is where transformation happens. Instead of fearing what wealth might do to you, consider what you can do with wealth. This isn't just a mindset tweak, it's a strategic realignment. Let's examine David. His self-sabotage came from donating excessively, not out of genuine desire, but from guilt. His financial decisions were disconnected from his true values, creating internal chaos. Once he recognized that genuine giving should feel empowering, not burdensome, he restructured his approach. Aligning financial strategies with his core values didn't just halt self-sabotage, it fueled sustainable success. Ultimately, self-sabotage, right before a financial breakthrough, isn't a failure of character. It's a misalignment of values and goals. The focus should be on congruence between who you are and who you're becoming. This recalibration means building wealth isn't an identity crisis. It's an identity confirmation. The end game here is to realize that wealth is a tool, not a transformation of self. Identifying this truth is where you dismantle the barriers of self-sabotage and step confidently into the wealth waiting for you. Beware the whisper of overconfidence. One of the most potent traps that snags people just before they hit the jackpot is believing they can't fail. The moment when the zeros in your bank account multiply is also the moment your judgment can cloud. You start to think you're invincible, that your success is inevitable, and that leads directly to reckless decisions. The tempting allure isn't just the money itself, it's the false security it brings. Consider Rachel. Her success in the stock market inflated her self-image. She believed her instincts were unfailing and started investing heavily in volatile stocks without proper diversification. Her overconfidence wasn't fueled by greed, but by the belief that past success guaranteed future wins. Within months, those risky moves wiped out half of her portfolio. It wasn't just money she lost, it was her financial compass. The real cost of falling into this trap isn't just a loss of wealth, it's the collapse of the stability you were building. That security you thought was rock solid, it evaporates faster than it came. Financial literacy estimates suggest that overconfident investors can lose up to 40% more than their cautious counterparts. The hard truth is, financial success doesn't make you invincible. It makes you a target for your own hubris. The lure of emotional spending is another pitfall. As your income grows, so does your desire to reward yourself. Emotional spending isn't just about buying things. It's about buying into the illusion of perpetual success. But here's the kicker. That new lifestyle doesn't reflect your new wealth status. It undermines it. Sudden splurges and lifestyle upgrades create a mirage of wealth, when in fact, they're eroding it. The consequence? Your financial growth stalls. The journey from just scraping by to living comfortably is derailed by these self-inflicted wounds. It's not a matter of character. It's the psychology of sudden abundance. The very tools meant to secure your future become the chains that bind you to your past mistakes. A sobering reminder, true wealth is not just what you earn, but what you keep and grow. Self-sabotage is a stealthy adversary, lurking just as you're about to break through to financial success. It thrives on fear and misalignment, holding your potential hostage. Remember our opening hook? Those who gain sudden wealth often lose it, not for lack of opportunity, but because they didn't align their actions with their true financial values. Here's your takeaway. Align your financial strategies with your core values and improve financial literacy. This alignment is your armor against self-sabotage. It's not just about having a plan, it's about having the right plan, one that reflects who you truly are and what you genuinely aim for. Laura's story showed us this. With planning and alignment, she didn't just save, she soared, tripling her savings and securing her dream of financial independence. That's what can happen when you sidestep the traps and embrace conscious financial decisions. Your financial future shouldn't collapse under the weight of past mistakes. It should stand firm on the foundation of informed choices. The final line, your wealth isn't what you earn, it's what you guard, grow, and guide.